We all know how cute miniature horses are, but trimming their tiny hooves with standard hoof care tools can be a harder job than trimming full-sized horses. Evolutionary Hoof Care's new line of trimming tools will not only save you time and effort, but also produce healthier, more durable hooves. The specially curved radius rasps make rounding the edges of hooves faster, easier, and more effective. They are designed to fit in one hand, so you can use the other hand to hold the hoof. The black Radius Rasp 2 quickly begins the rounding of the wall. The white Radius Rasp 1 smoothly completes it. The flexible sanding belts and blades of the hoof buffers give the most uniform and durable finish to the rounding of the hoof wall. The buffers blend all aspects of the hoof wall surface to prevent flaring and cracking. You'll be amazed by the results you get with these innovative new tools. And remember, at Evolutionary Hoof Care, your satisfaction is guaranteed. In addition to new trimming tools, Evolutionary Hoof Care presents a new generation of hoof support devices, the Evo hoof stands and the complete hoof care workstations, which have a tool caddy that holds a complete set of trimming tools. There are two sizes, standard and shorty. Both have a push-button height selector. The standard version is spring-loaded for instant elevation. All have a unique flip-up hoof cradle to hold the hoof securely while you work on it, and the cradle doubles as a handle for carrying the stand around the horse. The Evo stands are lightweight, zinc-plated to prevent rusting, and made to last a lifetime. The workstations have the addition of a solid aluminum tool caddy that holds your hoof knife, nippers, rasps, and all the new EHC tools. No more dragging a toolbox around the horse. Just pick up your workstation by its handle and go to work. The tool caddy keeps all your tools in easy reach while you trim. The shorty is made for minis, ponies, and large horses with stiff, inflexible legs. It has a height range of 9 to 15 inches. The shorty workstation tool caddy is smaller than the one on the standard, but still holds all the tools you need. In addition, the shorties come with a special hoof cradle extension, made especially for trimming those tiny mini hooves. The cradle extension acts to keep the mini hoof in place, so you can get both hands on your hoof nippers. This one function alone makes the shorty indispensable for trimming minis. Though the Evo shorty does not have a tool caddy, both radius rasps have powerful magnets in their handles that attach to the steel shaft of the stand. The combination of this new generation of hoof support devices with EHC trimming tools will change the way you trim hooves forever. No more struggling to hold the hoof and use your nippers. Firm support for accurate one-handed rasping. Solid control for precise knife work. Full access for rapid wall rounding with the radius rasps. And easy application of the hoof buffer. Miss Lily, a mid-sized mini, will help us demonstrate the effectiveness of our new tools. One of the most difficult aspects of trimming minis is using the hoof nippers. Because they are so small, it is hard to hold the hoof and get both hands on your nippers. That's why I created the hoof cradle extension insert. The cradle extension is stored on the powerful magnet on the shaft of the Evo shorty, or on the radius rasp mounting plate of the shorty workstation. To use the cradle extension, you pull it from its magnet and insert it into the rubber covering on the hoof cradle. You insert the extension on the side of the cradle next to the horse's body. To allow you to see how your legs control those of the horse, the following demonstrations are performed without a trimming apron. Insert the metal stem of the cradle extension under the metal core of the hoof cradle arc. Be sure it's pushed in all the way. The extension prevents the hoof from sliding off to the inside of the cradle. If the horse struggles, the extension will pop out, thus avoiding the stand from being tipped over. You control the horse's leg by placing the calf of your leg against its knee. In this sequence, you see a nipper run done on a front hoof resting on the cradle of the shorty workstation. The trimmer's leg prevents the horse's leg from moving forward, while the cradle extension prevents the hoof from sliding off the cradle to the inside. It is this action that allows you to get both hands on your nippers. The extension is usually only needed for nipper work on front hooves, but for this one part of trimming alone, it is indispensable. Using a hoof knife on these tiny hooves can be exasperating, but with the shorty hoof cradle, you can hold the hoof firmly in one hand and get accurate leverage with your knife in the other. The same one-hand grip on the hoof, pressing it down against the cradle, is used for rasping. This position allows you to choke up on your hoof rasp, grasping the rasp instead of its handle, giving you more control and power. This method also makes it much easier for you to flip your rasp from coarse to fine sides and to reverse your grip so you can pull it toward you to rasp the heels of the hoof. Using the hoof cradle and the one-handed grip on the hoof makes it easy to transition from one tool to the next. When using the radius rasps around the edge of the hoof wall, you slide the hoof further out from the cradle to give you full access to the wall itself. This move also allows you to work the outer wall with the hoof buffer. Here is the radius rasp sequence using the cradle on the Evo shorty hoof stand. Notice how the hand holding the hoof shifts it away from the cradle when needed to allow the radius rasp to round the outer surface of the wall. The grip head is the section of rasp on the top of the stand shaft. It holds the hoof for you as you work the outer hoof wall from above. To switch from hoof cradle to grip head, just lift and lower the cradle into its down position. The grip head is slanted away from the hoof cradle. Always position hooves on the grip head with the toe pointing toward the lower side, away from the cradle. The grip head can be removed and rotated. This changes the relationship of the grip head to the stand legs, offering you different bracing positions for your feet. As when using the hoof cradle, it is often best to grip the horse's leg in one hand while the hoof is on the grip head. Here again is the 1-2-3 sequence of black then white radius rasps, followed by the smoothing action of the hoof buffer, all done on the grip head. When using the hoof cradle to support hind hooves, you place your leg against the cannon bone and fetlock of the horse's leg, with the toe of your foot on one of the stand legs. The hoof cradle extension is rarely needed for hind hooves, except on the smallest of minis, so you can remove it and stow it on its magnet. For most minis, the hoof cradle is used at the stand's lowest height of about 11 inches. Using your nippers on the hind hooves is similar to doing front ones, but easier because the tension of the horse's leg helps keep the hoof on the cradle. Again, the use of the hoof cradle allows you to use both hands to operate your nippers. And the cradle extension is usually not needed because your leg is slightly inside of the horse's leg, keeping it from sliding off the cradle to the inside. When rasping hind hooves, you can use the one-handed grips on hoof and tool shown for front ones. Push the hoof down against the cradle with your supporting hand, and, grasping the body of the rasp firmly in the other, push and pull it in short, firm strokes. Remember to flip it from coarse to fine sides as you do this. These one-handed grips on hoof and tool are essential for accurate knife work. You and the horse are both much safer when the hoof is supported on the hoof cradle. Here is the basic nipper run on a hind hoof shown from the side. One of the trimmer's legs controls the horse's leg and steadies the hoof stand with the middle of one foot on the inside stand leg. Shifting the hoof backward or forward across the cradle changes the angle of the hoof and the area of support, depending on which part of the hoof you are rasping. Different positions are better for different tools or working different parts of the hoof. Usually this position also allows you to get both hands on your flat hoof rasp when working hind hooves. It's also effective to use the one-hand grips, one on the hoof and one using the choke grip on the rasp. The healthiest hoof shape and function are promoted by creating a smooth radius along the outer edge of the hoof wall. This shape is called the Mustang roll because it is typical of healthy hooves on wild horses in dry climates. To create this shape, you must round the outer third or so of the wall's thickness. This rounding keeps the harder outer layers of the wall from contacting the ground. That form helps prevent wall flaring and cracking. The arc of the Mustang roll is the widest at the toe of the hoof. You can begin this rounding by making a bevel cut with your nippers after rasping the hoof wall flat. The hoof cradle makes this nipper run easy and accurate. It is particularly useful when trimming horses with long, thick-walled toes. After making the bevel cut, you are ready to begin rounding the wall with the black Radius Rasp 2, followed by the white Radius Rasp 1 to smooth out the arc evenly. The Radius Rasps work equally well in both hands. Switching hands can increase your leverage and reduce the stress on one arm. For knife work, you can grasp both the hoof and the cradle in one hand, and reversing your grip on your knife gives you better leverage on the opposite side of the sole. Here is the rasping and EHC tool sequence on a hind hoof using the Shorty workstation. You can see how the tool caddy speeds up the trimming process. Your tools are all close to hand. This avoids you having to twist your body to reach for a toolbox. Also notice the shift of hoof position for using each different tool. The tool caddy not only holds your tools, it rotates a full 360 degrees around the stand shaft. You guide it by grasping one of the tools to turn it. This prevents it from ever getting in your way and allows you to place your tools right where you need them. You can also work the outer surface of hind hooves on the grip head. This is important for shaping hooves with extra long toes or flaring walls. The approach also allows you to have a better view when you are forming the arc of the Mustang roll. Here you have better access to the all-important upper border of the arc. Be sure to sand well above the bearing surface of the hoof wall to prevent cracks and flares. For horses that resist having their hind legs pulled out behind them, you can remove wall and horn from the underside of the hoof while it is on the grip head, with the leg pulled forward. Minis come in many sizes. At Rodeo's height, you basically have to stand on your head to trim his hooves. Thus, the EHC Hoof Cradle is doubly valuable here. To work on the shortest of the short, first remove the inner shaft from the stand. Then remove the hoof cradle from the grip head, and insert the hook of the cradle into the top of the outer stand shaft. Now you have a hoof cradle that is only 9 inches high. Next, take the hoof cradle extension from its storage magnet and insert it in one end of the hoof cradle. Position the stand with the cradle extension next to the horse's body. Then brace the horse's knee with your leg. Now you can begin trimming with your nippers using both hands. Keep the hoof in place against the cradle extension by pushing on the horse's knee with your leg. Just getting at the hooves of these wee ones is challenging. You can pull the horse's leg out from its body when you position it on the cradle. This gives you better access to the hoof. To use your other trimming tools, remove the cradle extension so you can use the one-hand grip on the pastern or hoof, pressing it down against the cradle. Push with your bracing arm as you pull on your knife. When pushing the knife away, press the back of the blade against the hoof to further stabilize it and increase your leverage. Do the same with your rasp. Grasp it below the handle and press it against the hoof as you push it. Use your index finger to increase your control of the rasp. Keep your bracing arm stiff to hold the hoof securely against the cradle as you work the rasp with short push and pull strokes, rasping in both directions. After rasping, you can use your nippers one-handed to make a bevel cut along the outer edge of the wall in preparation for rounding it. Use your bracing hand to hold the hoof against the cradle and to move it forward if needed to get access to the outer edge. This move also allows you to work the outer edges of the hoof with your radius rasps. Wall rounding can be done using the grip head as well as the hoof cradle. To switch from the hoof cradle to the grip head, remove the cradle from the top of the outer stand shaft and reinsert the inner stand shaft. With the hoof on the grip head, you have a clear view of what you're doing. Be sure to work the outer surface of the hoof wall when applying your radius rasps to create the arc of the Mustang roll, and then the hoof buffer to give the smoothest possible finish to its rounded surface. Here is the same sequence on the grip head of the Shorty workstation. You can see how the radius rasp mounting plate on the tool caddy keeps your radius rasps within easy reach. Remember, there's no more reaching for that toolbox. Everything is right where you need it. By combining the standard workstation with the Shorty hoof stand, you get a full-sized stand with large tool caddy that carries all your tools and keeps them at the ready while you trim, and you have the Evo Shorty for minis, ponies, and those large horses whose legs are sore or too stiff to flex easily. We call this the Pro Combo because it allows you to trim all sizes of horses with the greatest speed and ease possible. And remember, at Evolutionary Hoof Care, your satisfaction is so important, it is guaranteed.